Good afternoon and welcome to Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. And joining me live from HQ is Tony Zhang. He's the head of product strategy over OptionsPlay and what's becoming our resident crypto expert over here. So Tony, it seems like every time we speak about this each month, global volume and the price of Bitcoin continues to skyrocket.
Yeah, it's been an incredible ride. So last week we had some news that Bitcoin futures are going to be listed by the end of this year, and that's caused quite a bit of frenzy in the cryptocurrency space. Coinbase, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges, announced that they had 100,000 new accounts in a single day because on this news. And Bitcoin skyrocketed from a little over 6,000 to 7,600 in a matter of a week. So we've seen some incredible prices that are completely new for an uncharted waters for Bitcoin.
Right. I think I read this morning it's up 640% on the year. But what's your take on listing them in terms of futures? Do you think that's good for the business? Do you think they're, what are the advantages and disadvantages to that?
I think ultimately this is all good for the industry because it cements cryptocurrencies as an alternative asset class. I think it's going to bring institutional investors into this space. We're talking about futures and potentially even ETFs being listed in this space, so institutional and retail investors can add Bitcoins into their portfolio.
Right. There was an article out from Business Insider this morning that there was a $50 million trade that went up last week at BTC2, which is a crypto brokerage. So you are seeing that institutional money into crypto at that point. But do you think this is a feel-good story that investors just want to be involved, or is it the first wave of crypto?
That's really difficult to tell, but I do think that this is certainly the first wave. As to where it will go in the future, it's really difficult to tell, but I think having futures and other products listed on this is certainly going to help that. What I actually thought was most interesting is the fact that now the adoption of this cryptocurrency is being led by Wall Street, which is probably not what the original founders of Bitcoin had in mind, but I think the publicity that this brings is welcome.
And that was the original piece of the architect there, right? You don't want all of that regulation, or it wasn't supposed to be centralized, if you will. So when I was asking about the first wave, I wonder if perhaps infrastructure is going to be the second wave to figure out how is this going to be regulated? Is it going to be centralized? Who are going to be the big players in this? So I think just like with anything big data, we're in the first innings of it, and this is when it really starts to get interesting. Absolutely.
So I think it's we need to understand that we're pretty much in the infancy of this Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain as well. Both from a technology perspective, we're seeing there's a hard fork coming up next week, which is a big deal in this particular industry. And as far as infrastructure, there are a lot of different technology companies trying to build out different exchanges for cryptocurrency, including decentralized ones, which gets around some of the issues that we currently see with the centralized exchanges. So there's a lot of investment being done in this particular space, and we're yet to see what it will bring. And it's really difficult to predict even what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months.
Right, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, and I'm going to ask you to make a prediction on it. What do you think the impact is going to be to blockchain overall? It's just going to continue to build out? Or what are your thoughts there?
So I think, like I said, overall, this is all really good for the industry, but I think the overall focus that we should be thinking about is the underlying technology, which is blockchain. Technology is growing at an exponential pace that's almost becoming difficult for us to grasp as to how that will change our lives, and Bitcoin's going to play a big piece of that. So I think it's really important for us to understand and embrace this technology because there's been a lot of focus on sort of the negatives as to what it can bring. The decentralization and disintermediation could bring potentially millions of jobs obsolete. But I think we also have to focus on some of the positives because these industries that they're going to disrupt these industries will become effectively significantly cheaper, if not free, for everyone through these technologies. So it's really important for us to think about how we can use this technology in our favor as opposed to working against it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tony, for joining us. And traders, thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.